It's now the third week of Dune Awakening, and we are now getting to a point where we can start deciding on what our builds are going to be looking like and the type of playstyles which are going to be most convenient for us to be playing. Keeping this in mind, there are two great options that I see running out there, but 90% of the community are all running blade builds. For me, I am more interested in running something at ranged, so I have put together one of what I believe to be the best build for myself and people around me that are interested in doing ranged kiting gun builds. And I want you to join me for this adventure. Now, the fundamental backbone of this build rests inside of the weapons and armor that you're using. For me, I try to throw in two pieces of Syndicate, which are giving me extra mitigation against most elemental things out there. As you'll see a little bit later as we talk about how it handles different mobs, you can literally stand almost in the middle of a flamethrower and you are not going to die. The other end of this is the Acheron, which I throw a three-piece on. Now, the reason I use Acheron is because for this level or this tier of armor, this is the best that you're going to find in terms of armor value. They're literally 100 armor value higher than all the other heavies that you're basically finding inside of the Haga Basin. And since you are looking forward to like pushing into the deep desert, this is going to be one of the better setups that you have to deal with, because in labs in the deep desert, you will be facing two things: lots of darts flying at you and a lot of flamethrowers. So you want to be able to make sure that you have a mitigation against the flames so that you don't get burned to a crisp, and you can block out a lot of that dart damage that is coming your way. Not to mention, with the Acheron set, it has the lowest amount of negative value blade mitigation of all the other armor sets as well, as this one you can see is at 9. Most of the other heavy sets inside of the game are set around 12%. Not to mention, the concussive mitigation is about 3% higher than the other pieces of gear as well. So it's a great choice to have so you don't stay knocked out, you don't die from fire due to these two pieces, and you have enough mitigation against all of the darts that you can kind of maintain yourself, especially if you get knocked down, to resurrect yourself so that you're not just getting shot and losing all that durability on your gear. Now, as for the weapons, I use 3 different weapons. For this, I use the Thirfirs for long distance. This is because for the most part, outside of like maybe 5% of the mobs in the game, Thirfirs basically one-shots everything. Moving to mid-range, if something is charging at me with a shield, I'll use the drill shot. This is the Adept Burst drill shot. This is the best one that you're going to find inside of Haga Basin, not the best one you can find in the game. And then finally, if the mobs are on me, we are going to be using the replica pulse sword, which as well is one of these higher end weapons that you can find that you can pretty much slice through them. Now, any drill shot and any pulse sword or shock jolt sword, whatever it might be, can work if you can't find these blueprints. However, Thirfirs is more than likely, in my opinion, a must-have to just breeze through the entirety of this game. Now, if you're wondering where you need to go in order to get all of this equipment, I have a video that you should be watching that teaches you a quick route that takes less than 6 minutes to get all of these pieces. Of course, you're gonna have to rely on RNGesus because these are coming from the cosmic chests, but you will need to travel down here to the shoal. When you get to the shoal here at the edge of Acheron, this is where you will get the Syndicate gear. Once you jump out here to the Wreck of Delphus, this is where you will start finding the guns like Thermir's or Five Fingers. You can then come to Shaitan's Grotto. This is where you will find the Acheron. And then there is the 4th place, which is the Wreck of Euphoria, which you can find the Pulse Shield and every so often something that might be of use. You can even probably cut this out. I can't remember ever getting anything of any extreme use from there, but typically these first 3 points, that of Acheron, the Delphus, and Shaitan's, all drop all the gear that I've just mentioned to you. You just have to run it enough to get them. So starting with the trooper, we need to throw in and look at the obvious first, which is all of the range damage coming with center mass being one of the first techniques that we throw in there, because obviously center of mass and range damage are both going to be increasing the amount of damage that we're doing by using our ranged weapons. Scatter gun damage, we are using a drill shot, so we want to push out as much damage as we can with that. And also in the future, there will be dropping a gun that is a shotgun known as Starburst. And Starburst is expected to be one of the better guns that you can actually own and possess inside the game, so it doesn't hurt to go ahead and lock in a few points there, because you are using drill shot. Now of course drill shot does fall off once you get into the deep desert. I find you have to take like 8 to 10 rounds to knock down something, but we were just talking about functioning inside of the Haga Desert at this point. And of course you'll be using other weapons in the deep desert to kind of work through these issues as well. Now, obviously, gunsmith and field maintenance are both there to maintain the longevity of our weapons. And I've mentioned that I use disruptors whenever I get into a PvP situation, because it does knock down opponent skills and stuns them for a split second, which gives you a chance to turn the tide. Now, obviously here we have gravity field. I'm only putting 2 points of dispenser efficiency. I would like to actually put more, but all the other passes that I'm really looking at maintaining really kind of block it out. And I'm pretty sure that, the amount of energy I'm pushing out with the MK5 or 6 at that point is going to be just fine. Now, gravity field puts out a big AoE. This basically weighs people down and it starts absorbing shield energy. So this is a great skill to have. If somebody, for example, Benny Jesuit jumps around on your back, you can dodge, you can throw this thing down. When it pops, anybody who's inside of that field is going to be losing their shield. So you basically throw it and then you turn around and you drill shot them. Or if you have a better weapon such as a lasgun, you can literally just lasgun them and one shot them in an instant. I use the Suspensor Blast for whenever I get 2 or 3 NPC mobs that are just on top of me. You've definitely felt this because NPCs like to use this a lot, especially the heavy gunners. It just gives a little AoE area that burst damages them and kind of knocks them unconscious for a few seconds. It gets them, a little bit riled up, and that gives you a chance to kind of manipulate the system to try to find your way out or to finish off the attacks and kill them. Now, of course, Sugar Wire Claw, this thing works in 2 different ways. You can either use it as an escape mechanism or a climbing mechanism. You can also use it as a stun. Now, you want to make sure that you're putting 3 points into Sugar Wire, because you want that cooldown to be as quickly as possible, which leads to our second technique, that of Battle Hardened. And this is kind of reducing the cooldowns of everything. That is a trooper skill. So notice that all of our skills are trooper skills. I'm trying to do this, I'm maintaining it this way primarily for this one technique, because this technique does not work outside of the trooper skill tree. Any other skill that's not a trooper skill, it does not work on cooling them down. So just having this and maintaining all of your skills and dropping the cooldown rates of everything is just fundamentally really good thing to have. And of course, the last part with the Sugar Wire Claw is you can use it as a stun. I kind of call it a whip, because you whip it to them once and it kind of stuns them. Well, like 8 seconds later you get to use it again and bam. So you can kind of control NPCs that are fighting at you or shooting at you from long range just kind of really quickly, so you can maneuver into a spot to kind of finish them off and get stuff done. In terms of my Swordmaster skills and abilities, I do have knee charge. You have to unlock it obviously to get to the other ones, but really the bread and butter that we are aiming for here is field medicine, so that when we use the heal kit we get more heals from it. Obviously a good thing. And I throw 3 into hydration stamina bonus, because I tend to be doing a lot of running out in the sun, especially whenever I'm leaving the Haga Basin and getting out into that A lane of the deep desert. the PvE area of the deep desert, I find that I lose a lot of water really quick, so I'm running around outside and doing this or that. So I like to maintain that stamina. Also, of course, my guild pulls me into PvP battles and stuff like that in the middle of me grinding out stuff. So it's good to be able to maintain your water levels when you're out there in the deep desert. Now, obviously, deflection is a must unlock. Bleed tolerance, I'm not too worried about, but solid stance, this is reducing the amount of poise, or not reducing poise, it's giving you poise, but it's increasing the amount of time that you are not unconscious whenever you get kind of knocked silly. So when someone like hits you, like one of the NPCs, for example, explodies on you and you kind of are concussed, this reduces the amount of time that you stay concussed, so you can kind of rebound a little bit quicker. Now, I have thrown 3 in blade damage and tossed one up here to long blade damage as well. Obviously, we do use the sword, so I kind of feel ridiculous if I don't throw some points in it. I could probably take this out and throw that into something else, but you know, whatever, because that would be 2 points that we could do it. But you know, just having that little extra damage with the sword doesn't really hurt whenever you need to get rid of something a little bit quicker than normal. As for planetologist, I'm doing a lot of flying, so I just keep fuel efficiency pilot up. I just find it to be, obviously you're using less fuel, so you can survive, and I'm doing a lot of PvP stuff out there as well. But if you were just flying around the Haga Basin and the PvE area of the deep desert, it's still good to have this because there are long flights, you have to go up and down a lot, so you're using a lot of fuel, and it's kind of making you start at an elevated level, so you are burning more fuel whenever you get out to the deep desert. So it's always great to have, just for the reasons that were stated. In terms of scientist, I do use rerouting and overcharge because this is obviously more power. I like power. Power is a good thing. And of course, power regeneration is also a good thing. So if you do happen to burn through your shield, this thing is going to recharge your shield a lot faster. It's going to make it easy for you to bounce back and primarily not just die that quickly. Now, in terms of Bintat, we are going to throw and run points all the way up here to rifle damage because we are using sniper rifles. Now, later on, you can use the 5-finger shot, which is considered a sniper rifle, but it doesn't have a scope and it hits really hard. But I just don't use it because I find in the Haga Basin, you can more or less one-shot 95% of everything with the Thirfirs, so it doesn't really matter if you have it. But either way, you're getting 15% more damage with that. And then I, of course, top in range damage. Everything else is just a 1-pointer because you have to fill it in to move up. Finally, with Bene Gesserit, we are looking at healing and more healing and health. So here we have healing regeneration. Here we have healing regen limit. Here we have max health. Here we have healing effectiveness of things that you are using. Here is poison tolerance. Now we're doing this because we want to negate poison tolerance. Any kind of elemental damage that you are getting yourself into, you want to make sure that you are reducing it to the maximum amount. And of course, I do throw one into sun tolerance because I had to have it, and it probably wouldn't be such a bad idea to have this at 3. If I had enough points, I definitely would, because once again, I find myself running out there and getting heat stroke way too often. So this is the way that our skills are set up. I do have a link to this at the bottom of the video, so if you need a more visual guide of what I have done, just follow the link that's in the comment section below and you'll be able to see all the different setups that I have. Now please keep in mind, when it comes to abilities like Sugar Wire Claw, Suspensor Belt, and Gravity Field, these things are very subjective. Individuals will choose different skills according to what their playstyles are. For me, I am wanting to play a pure ranged DPS class, meaning I never want anything in my face. I always want to have some kind of space to kite, or I want to be able to manipulate the system to where I can get away into another location to start shooting at them with various weapons and dealing damage in that means. So obviously, These different abilities are going to change according to how you want to play the game, but for me, these 3 abilities are working best for me. I've really gotten into a groove with it. I'm sure somebody thinks that their ideas are better. That's perfectly fine. All that you have to know is it's very subjective, and it really determined by what kind of playstyle you enjoy doing inside of these games. Keep in mind that I do use Center of Mass, Battle Harden, and Trauma Recovery as my techniques. Yes, there are other techniques that you can throw in there. I know I'll get 1,000 messages on this too, but once again, what I'm really looking to do with my build is to regain health as quickly as possible. Obviously, get all of my trooper skills reset as quickly as possible with their reset timers, and of course just do more damage with body damage. I'm not trying to get headshots. I'm trying to pop things in the body, and it's easier. I'm never missing this way. Now, a final thing that I'd like to include here is that this build is really primarily for the Haga Basin and the starting area of the Deep Desert. This is a PvE build, not a PvP build. I do run different things whenever I jump into doing ground battle with PvP, and this is a video which I will be bringing up at a later time. But at this point, I just want you to understand that this build is viable even for the deep desert. But remember, anytime that you go into that deep desert, you are running the risk of being captured and destroyed by PvPers. So please make sure to be careful when you're flying out there, and keep an eye and notes on when you see the most people that are dangerous out there on the internet at that given time. However, if you are staying inside of the Haga Basin and that general PvE area of the deep desert soloing stuff, this build will help you fly through this and get better gear. Please keep in mind that if there is something else that you would like to add, or you think that there are other skills or techniques which you might believe to be better for this build, please leave a comment below and let me know. Let's talk it out, because I'm always looking for ways to improve these type of things, and you people know as much as I do when it comes to a new game. So thank you all for watching, and have a great day.